Let's begin with what's happening in Punjab. At 11 a.m. this morning, Punjab will get a new Chief Minister, and that's Charanjit Singh Channi. A surprise pick, no doubt. And with finally there being clarity on who the next Chief Minister is, there's still a big question mark over the Deputy CM faced. And that's what everyone's talking about right now. Now, the Congress has confirmed that there will be two Deputy Chief Ministers. And sources have told India Today that the names of Aruna Chaudhary and Bharat Bhushan Ashu are doing the rounds right now as probable candidates. Chaudhary, who is a Dalit candidate, and Ashu, a Hindu face for the Deputy CM post, may essentially set the caste equations right for the Punjab Congress ahead of the elections. Let's get you details about both the leaders. Aruna Chaudhary is a 62-year-old MLA from the Dinanagar constituency. She served as the Social Security, Women and Child Development Minister under the Captain Amarinder Singh government. She is the daughter-in-law of Chaudhary Jay Muni, founder MLA of Dinanagar. The other probable is Bharat Bhushan Ashu. He's a sitting MLA from Ludhiana West and served as the Food, Civil Supplies and Consumer Affairs Minister in the Captain Amarinder Singh government. The Punjab CM designate Charanjit Singh Channi offered prayers this morning at a Gurudwara in Rupnagar before the oath-taking ceremony. Remember that the ceremony is going to be happening at 11 this morning.
मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि पार्टी श्री चेन्नी के नाम पर पहले से ही एकजुट थी। हमारी जो जनभावना है, हमारे एमएलए की भावना है, वो ये है कि दो डिप्टी चीफ मिनिस्टर हों और हम दो डिप्टी चीफ मिनिस्टर और काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स जल्दी से जल्दी नाम तय हो गए।
Let me get you all the updates now. What's expected today? Kamaljit Sandhu, who's been tracking the developments over the weekend, is joining us live this morning with the latest on what's expected today in Punjab. Kamaljit, good morning. At this point, the focus is on who's going to be the Deputy Chief Minister. The Punjab Congress has told us that there will be two faces. What are really the aspects that will be taken into consideration when the Congress goes ahead and chooses the Deputy Chief Ministers?
Well, besides the name that you've mentioned, there's also the name of Sukhjinder Singh Randhawa. His name was for a probable CM candidate. That has not happened, but he is a judge-sick face. The other part is obviously about balancing. Remember, there has been massive infighting within the Congress party, Sidhu versus Captain camp. There have been other camps as well. So the Congress party would want to put this right behind them and have a clean start with 4 months to go before the high-octane assembly polls in Punjab. This seems to be a major corrective measure which has been put in place by the party high command. So there are names which are doing the round. And remember, this is to anybody's guess as to who would make it. But one of the important facets is to get the caste equations right. A Dalit face at the helm of affairs is something which is of a high risk because remember, so far it's been the judge community which has had a majority share as far as the Chief Minister is concerned in Punjab. But things obviously are kind of different. Also that it could pay rich dividends. There is a sizable Dalit population. Shrimani Akali Dal, we know, has tied up with BSP in a bid to actually woo the Dalit voters. There is also anti-incumbency that the Congress faces. There are other aspects about how there has been inaction as far as the Badals are concerned in the sacrilegious case or the drug case. So will that particular thing really happen in the next 4 months is a big question.
Right.
Will the new names be able to do performance is the other big question. So a whole lot of pros and cons here now. But for now, it seems all eyes will be on the oath-taking ceremony. Mr. Channi is also a controversial name. There have been the past instances whether it's regarding his personal conduct, or whether it's in association or the superstition.
Yes.
So there are many things which have been doing the rounds, but at this point of time, it does seem that Congress has made a decision in him and they would carry forward with his legacy and his name.
Right. They've reposed their faith in Channi. We'll see how that really plays out in the months to come. For the moment, Kamaljit, thank you very much for joining us. So as Kamaljit mentioned, Charanjit Singh Channi is the chosen one, a name that perhaps wasn't really what everyone expected over the weekend, but he is going to be Captain Amarinder Singh's successor. He is a bit of a controversial face because he's had certain allegations also leveled against him in the past in his political career. But here's a look at exactly why Channi has been chosen. What are his strengths, but also what is the Achilles heel in going ahead and choosing Channi? What are the weaknesses? We're now decoding that for you by getting you this SWOT analysis. The strength for Channi is that he's the Dalit face of the Congress Congress in Punjab. So they're trying to set really the caste equations right by going ahead and taking this step. Besides that, you also have the fact that he is a relatively young face, someone who is seen as liked by all parts of the Congress as well. He is a close Sidhu aide, and perhaps this is what has worked the most in his favour. The fact that he is someone who is a trusted aide of Navjot Singh Sidhu. He is also a Ramdasiya Sikh, which is a community that matters for the Congress. He's a heavyweight from this particular community. That too worked in his favour. He's also someone who's performed as an MLA. He's had 3 back-to-back wins from the Champkor Sahib, someone who is unchallenged in this constituency. And he's also had his fair share of responsibilities in the Captain Amarinder Singh government. He had multiple berths that were assigned to him in the cabinet. There are certain weaknesses also, however, that the Congress will have to keep in mind. He's a relative greenhorn, someone who's not considered to be a senior Congress party leader, and so there will be questions on his performance. He's also seen as someone who is far too close to Navjot Singh Sidhu, so there will be questions on whether he's a mere puppet, on whether Sidhu is going to be calling the shots. He's also been someone who's been very vocal against Captain Amarinder Singh, hasn't held back, considering he is very clearly in the Sidhu camp, has time and again criticised Captain Amarinder Singh and also stoutly opposed by Amarinder. Amarinder, in his interview to India Today, had also very clearly said that he's against Sidhu or anyone close to Sidhu being made the chief minister. But what's the opportunity here for Channi and the Congress? He can unite Dalit votes for the Congress, and in the run-up to an election, that's a very, very crucial factor. Besides that, he can also help the Congress stem dissidents, but that will, of course, also depend on how Channi performs, on how Channi decides to unite the Congress. The focus can be put back on governance here after a lot of bickering, and the focus for the last many months being on the implosion within the Punjab Congress. He has an opportunity here to focus again on governance. Also, he can aid Sidhu in tightening the grip on Punjab Congress and helping the Sidhu camp essentially call the shots. The threat in the SWOT analysis, the threat really for the Congress is that there are only 5 months to go for the assembly polls. So this is, whichever way you look at it, a gamble. There is a resurgent AAP in Punjab. Akali Dal is going all out to ensure they secure this election. So there will be questions of whether Congress can afford this kind of a churn just before the elections. The BJP is also trying hard to woo Dalit voters, and keeping in mind Channi himself is a Dalit, there will be a focus by the Congress in trying to ensure that Channi can woo back Dalit voters. And of course, the Congress's infamous factional fights, will that end or will it continue now with Channi being chosen, remains a big question mark at this point. So those are really the issues that the Congress has kept in mind while going ahead and naming Channi as the next Chief Minister of Punjab.